Let's move to Venezuela. Venezuela has been facing a serious humanitarian disaster and crisis since Wednesday, when twin earthquakes of magnitude 7.2 and 7.5 on the Richter scale struck the country and have caused mass devastation. I think this morning, Jorge Rodriguez, who is the president of the National Assembly, gave an update on the numbers, which I just want to share quickly. And of course, these have been changing on a daily basis, really an hourly basis. The death toll is currently 1,719, injured 5,000, impacted people over 15,000. Total number of people who have been kind of attended to is 22,000. Impacted buildings, 855. Total collapse, 189 buildings. Partial collapse, 666. And then the total number of kind of seismic events, so this includes the two earthquakes, is over 600. So there were the two major earthquakes, then there were a huge number of aftershocks, and even yesterday there was a magnitude 5 earthquake. Sorry, my headpiece is falling out. So again, obviously this is a serious situation, and the eyes of the world, rightly so, have been on Venezuela. Countries from across the world have been sending rescue teams, have been sending aid, but unsurprisingly, the response has been very politicized from the right-wing media, from the United States, from these same crazy legislators, largely from Florida, who have been calling for the bombing of Venezuela, for the invasion of Venezuela, and now basically are calling for the leaders of the Venezuelan government to be arrested, somehow saying that they're impeding rescue efforts, which is such a disgusting accusation. But to break all of that down, today we are joined by Carlos Ron, who is a researcher at the Tricontinental Institute for Social Research, and he's the former Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs for North America for Venezuela. So Carlos, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
So obviously it's a very difficult moment, and I know the last several days have been extremely challenging for everyone in Venezuela and even outside. So talk to us first about what you and the Venezuelan people have been experiencing since the earthquake struck Venezuela on Wednesday.
Well, I mean, the first thing we have to say is that this is a very strange type of earthquake. Actually, we're the twin earthquake situation. It's unusual. I mean, Venezuela, or at least Caracas, where I live, sits on a fault line, so it's not unusual to have tremors here and there. But this magnitude we haven't ever seen actually. There's data from 1812 where there were thousands of people died, but the way you measure things back then were very hard to measure. The last big earthquake in Caracas was in 1967, where around 236 people lost their lives. That has been by far already surpassed by this earthquake or twin earthquakes. And Caracas was hit in several parts, but the most damage is in the state of La Guaira, which is the coastal state. Many of you that have been to Venezuela know that's actually where you arrive. That's where the main national airport is. And like you said early on, there's hundreds of buildings that have just fallen down, crumbled down. And that's to say, this is not something that you could really prepare for. Earthquakes are not, some sort of. There's no real warning sign or anything to tell you right before. And also the magnitude of the earthquake. I mean, it's not necessarily something easy to prepare for. But at the same time, I think one of the things that we've seen and that has struck us as important is the solidarity and the way everyone here in Caracas, I could tell you, everyone in the city just mobilized in whichever possible way to help people get out of the rubble. And you see everyone's from authorities to common people trying to do as much as they can in solidarity with the people that have been hurt, but also trying to rescue and get people out.
I mean, God, I'm so sorry for just all of this horror. It's just awful to witness. It really does look like a war zone from the footage we've been seeing, just completely tragic. But, throughout this tragedy, Carlos, there have been many accusations going around in right wing media and being circulated by right wing influencers that somehow the current government in Venezuela is blocking rescue efforts. So, can you tell us, is there any truth to this? And where is it that these accusations are coming from?
Well, see, I think the main issue here for especially for right wing activists has been that as the government starts responding and coordinating relief efforts, they had to sort of throw something out to see if they could minimize the efforts or even the respect that the government would automatically get because they're attending to the problem. So they started especially through social media, with these rumors that there's no help being given. First, I think you have to understand the magnitude of this. I mean, like there was 855 buildings, apartment building types that have been hit, and just in La Guaira itself, about 100 of those have actually crumbled down. So you can imagine, the way these things have spread, the way you need to wait for rescue personnel to reach every one of these places to try to see how they can get people out. I mean, that deployment in itself is very difficult. But I think there's over 30,000 people in the streets from civil defenders or the rescue missions from police, military. Everybody has been deployed to try to find people and get people out of the rubble, which is the main priority now. Also, the government has been coordinating foreign aid, and especially the teams of rescuers. Over 45 delegations, international delegations, have come with some sort of aid, whether it be doctors like the Cuban doctors who were already here in Venezuela working, and they provided some help. There's been everything from mobile hospitals coming in from India, or these moles, they're called, this rescue search parties from Mexico who have been experienced in other earthquakes in Chile and in Malaysia and so forth, that they have their experts are digging people out of the rubble. All these teams have come here, and they have been coordinating with the government as well as with volunteers. At the beginning, of course, everybody just rushed down to see, to this place to see how they could help out, and some problems started occurring because there were a lot of there was a lot of cars and trying to come down to La Guaira at the same time. So you needed to immediately find a way to organize these volunteers. So the government issued, a calling for volunteers to go register themselves, and then depending on what their area of expertise was, if they could do some medical work, if they could do some rescue work, they were organized in a way that you could have this orderly transportation of these volunteers down to the areas affected, and that wouldn't block roads, because there was a moment where there was tensions because everybody just wanted to come out and help,
Mm-hmm.
and it was making it difficult for rescue workers to actually get to the places where they needed to go.
Mm-hmm.
This was then taken by some people in maliciously in the social media and say, oh, look, they're trying to prevent people, they're trying to prevent volunteers and to come down and help out. No, you need to organize a rescue effort of this magnitude. And that is precise. And again, there's been over 10,000 people registered to go down and serve as volunteers. So the system is working. Yesterday and the day before, the roads were cleared up so that the big rescue efforts, the big machinery could come down and do the effort. But you needed to have some sort of order. And again, the intention has always been to attack the sitting government and use this in a way to say, well, this government isn't good enough or isn't doing enough to save people. We need to have some further intervention. As a matter of fact, I would say even more complicated than this. That the idea that they're trying to propose that, Venezuela is a failed state. This is not an idea that is new. This is an idea that has been going on for many years now, since the Bolivarian Revolution. And this is part of that attempt as to show that Venezuela is a state that cannot, do things for itself, that needs some sort of international intervention. This we have to. I think it's important for people to speak out and deny this, because this is not true. This is not what's going on here in Venezuela.
I mean, it's interesting because I was talking to a friend and I was like, these accusations are crazy. Like what kind of government? Of course, the Venezuelan government is trying to save their people. And then she was like, well, the only government that has actively stopped rescue efforts from taking place is the United States in its own country, to survivors from hurricanes, to survivors from floods. So, I mean, it's just, but
every accusation
is a confession.
A confession.
It's, but Carlos, since January 3rd, there have been a lot of transformations within Venezuela in terms with regards to its relationship with the United States. However, in all of these transformations, the bulk of the 1,000 U.S. sanctions against Venezuela remain in place. So can you talk to our audience a bit about how the past and the present sanctions have impacted relief efforts and made it more complicated?
Well, I think there's two ways to look at this. First of all, if you look at the historical issuing of U.S. sanctions, it's almost over a decade now of different types of sanctions here and there. I mean, aside from the loss of income that has represented, there's also a lot of things that have hurt Venezuelan infrastructure. The lack of resources, or not only resources, but spare parts for machinery, or for hospitals. I mean, we've had reports by the UN that came to Venezuela, Alain Duhan, the special rapporteur for the negative impact of unilateral coercive measures, reported back in 2021 how hospitals were hindered their capacity to take care of people because of these type of measures. So of course the capacity of the Venezuelan state, because of the sanctions, is not the optimal capacity. It has not been what it should be. But also now I think there's another issue that we have to think about is how do you move on from here? Okay, because efforts by the Venezuelan government, efforts by the Venezuelan people in the last several years have actually improved the economic situation in the country. I mean, there was not to the levels of prior to the sanctions, but some things have started to move along and improve. So we're not in the same condition as when this started, but at the same time, with a massive earthquake, with a massive result of this tragedy, you're going to need rebuilding. You're going to need to treat people with dignity while those homes are being rebuilt. And where is the money that the U.S. still holding on from Venezuelan accounts? I mean, there's over $7 billion in frozen accounts. There's the gold that is kept in the U.K. still. There's the rights of the special drawing rights in the IMF that Venezuela should have full access to, and it still hasn't had the full access to. There's even debt that is being collected in Venezuela. By some estimates, it might amount to $248 billion of debt that Venezuela is going to have to renegotiate. This is a debt that Venezuela acquired because it was forced into default because of the sanctions. Now this is a thing, a good time to talk about serious debt cancellations, because this is the type of things that are going to prevent a state of doing the right thing at the right time to help its people out and to help the recovery efforts. So I think it's very important that if this, I mean, you have the Trump administration saying, "Oh, we're giving aid, and then we're sending $150 million of aid." And say, well, how much money has been that the United States is still holding on to that belongs to the Venezuelan people?
Yeah.
So it's kind of hypocritical. We have to denounce this and show what it is.
No, totally. And I mean, that brings us to the last question we wanted to ask you about here, which is, due to this new U.S. relationship that Washington has with Caracas, the Trump administration was one of the first to announce that it would be sending these expert teams and aid to support Venezuela after this earthquake. And the aid, it's important to note, is being coordinated by the U.S. Southern Command. This is, of course, the same Southcom that maintained a naval blockade on Venezuela and helped carry out the operation on January 3rd that killed over 100 people and kidnapped the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, who is still sitting in a prison cell in New York City. So also, I should note, not to make everything about Israel, but I did see that the Israeli military has also been coordinating with Israeli aid groups to send aid to Venezuela, which I imagine is basically in tandem with the U.S. or whatever U.S. interests lie there. But all of that's to say, are people worried, Carlos, about what could happen in the future with this massive U.S. presence in Venezuela?
Well, I think obviously, like in other places, I mean, this has been part of Latin American history as well. We've seen other places that have been called humanitarian crises and the need of humanitarian intervention. Countries like Haiti, for example, have a long history of so-called humanitarian intervention that has turned into military occupation, that has turned into all these, increasing further dependence on outside NGO work. So obviously, I think the people of Venezuela right now, everybody's focused on the rescue efforts, but I think overall people are concerned about not having this issue be some sort of mask of attempts at bringing in troops or bringing in things that are not needed for the rescue effort. I think anybody that wants to, of course. The government's decision has been that of accepting people who want to provide aid, and I think that is because of the situation. That is something that is understandable, but there is a concern that this doesn't turn into some sort of opening so that other types of interventionism can increase. Overall, I think the Venezuelan people are as in the Constitution, stated in the Constitution, we are co-responsible for the efforts of building the nation and on helping out. And I think the people and the communities are out there, being part of this effort, and also so we don't need intervention in the sense of trying to dominate or trying to take all aspects of Venezuelan life. We need machinery, we need tools, we need expertise. But the Venezuelan people are capable of running on their own destiny, and that has been proven by this situation and by others in the past.
Yeah, I mean the images of all of the people going to the centers of kind of the shelters in Caracas, of bringing clothes and food to try to help the tens of thousands of people that have been displaced is definitely heartwarming and a reminder of that collective spirit and energy that is so strong in Venezuela. Well, Carlos, we hope you stay well in this very tough week. And of course, we'll be coming back to this story on the show and of course at breakthroughnews.org. So thank you so much for joining us, Carlos.
Oh, thank you very much.